The photograph had slept in the vault for 37 years, asterisk inside the climate-controlled archives of the Massachusetts Historical Society. It was just one item in the Asheford family collection boxes of letters, contracts, and portraits from a wealthy New England industrial clan. Nothing about it on paper suggested anything unusual. Asterisk on a cold February morning in 2019. Dr. Rachel Cheen slid the image from its sleeve and set it on her desk. She was a photographic historian, working on a project about northern industrial families after the Civil War. The Ashfords of Salem, Massachusetts, were exactly the kind of people she needed. Rich, respectable, winners of history. The portrait looked perfectly ordinary. A stern man in his 40s, beard trimmed and posture rigid. Beside him, his wife in a dark, elaborate dress, lace traced neatly along the collar and sleeves. In front of them, 3 children arranged in a careful line: Edmund, the eldest boy, Margaret, the daughter, and little Elizabeth, perched on a velvet cushion at their mother's feet. Asterisk behind them. The parlor boasted their status: heavy curtains, carved wood furniture, a clock on the mantel, decorative objects placed with intentional precision. It was the kind of picture meant to say, we are important. We are safe. We are in control. Rachel had seen hundreds like it. She was already reaching for the sleeve to put it back when something in the background caught her eye. A tall, narrow rectangle framed in silver, half hidden behind Edmund's shoulder. A mirror. That in itself wasn't strange. But something about the dark surface bothered her. It wasn't reflecting the room clearly. It was just a murky patch of black, as if it had swallowed the light instead of bouncing it back. Asterisk Rachel hesitated. Then moved to the scanner. Asterisk, she placed the photograph on the glass, closed the lid, and watched the light bar travel slowly beneath it. Moments later, the image appeared on her monitor in sharp, high resolution. She zoomed in on the mirror, isolating it on the screen. Asterisk at first. It was just grain and shadow. Asterisk. She adjusted the brightness. Then the contrast. Slowly, shapes began to separate from the darkness. A faint curve, a line that might be an arm. A pale blur where a face could be. Asterisk. Rachel leaned closer, heart picking up speed. She continued to adjust the image carefully, staying just on the safe side of over-enhancement. Then she saw it. A figure. A woman, standing in the reflection. Asterisk, her features were still indistinct. But there was no mistaking the posture. Upright, tense, as if she had no choice in where she stood. And around her wrists and neck, thin pale bands that repeated in 3 places. Asterisk. Rachel enhanced the image a little more. The bands resolved into something sickeningly clear. Chains. Asterisk. For a second, the room felt too quiet. The wealthy family sitting in comfort at the center of the frame, perfectly posed for history. And behind them, barely visible, almost swallowed by darkness, a chained woman, caught only because of where the mirror happened to stand. Asterisk Rachel grabbed her phone with a trembling hand. Asterisk 2 hours later. 3 other experts were crowded into her small office. Asterisk Michael Torres, historian of American slavery. Asterisk Patricia Williams, SPECILIST in African American life during Reconstruction. Asterisk James Bradford, a forensic imaging specialist. Asterisk. They stood around the monitor as James flipped between different enhanced versions of the same small section. Asterisk. This isn't digital noise, he said firmly. I've used 3 methods. The figure appears in the same place, same shape, every time. She's on the original plate. The camera saw her. Asterisk. And the date. Michael asked. Asterisk. June 1867, Rachel replied. 2 years after the 13th Amendment. Slavery is illegal by then, everywhere, including Massachusetts. Asterisk. So if this woman is chained, Patricia said slowly, we're looking at illegal enslavement in a northern industrialist's home after the war. They fell silent, each of them understanding what that meant. Rachel turned the actual photograph over, looking for a studio mark. Faded ink pressed into the backing caught the light. Asterisk G. Morrison and Coombs. Fine photography, Boston, she read. She glanced at the notes. The wife in the picture is Catherine Ashford. Her maiden name was Morrison. Asterisk Patricia looked up sharply. So the photographer, asterisk, might be her brother, Rachel finished. A family member. Asterisk. They all stared again at the reflection of the chained woman. Asterisk of James. Morrison had taken this photograph of his sister's family and deliberately caught that mirror in the background. Then this portrait wasn't just about vanity or respectability. Asterisk. It was a message, a warning, evidence. Asterisk. Rachel sat back, her eyes still fixed on the dim figure trapped in the glass. Asterisk. Whoever she is. She said quietly. She wasn't supposed to disappear. Someone put her in this picture. Someone wanted her to be seen someday. Asterisk. She looked at the date. Then at the chains faintly visible on the screen. Asterisk. That's someday, she added. Might be now. The discovery of the chained woman changed everything. Within hours, Rachel and her team were deep into research, tracing every clue that could explain who she was and how she appeared inside a family portrait that was meant to show nothing but wealth and respectability. Asterisk. The first breakthrough came. Quickly. Asterisk. City directories from the 1860s confirmed what Rachel suspected. Asterisk. James Morrison, the photographer stamped on the back of the portrait, was indeed the younger brother of Catherine Ashford. The woman seated elegantly in the photograph. A brother taking a portrait of his sister's wealthy family was normal. Asterisk A. Brother accidentally capturing a chained woman in their home was not. Asterisk. Michael leaned back in his chair as soon as the connection appeared on screen. Asterisk. If he was related, he said, it explains one thing: access. He could enter the house often. He would know the layout. He would know where a mirror stood. Asterisk. Patricia added quietly, and he would know if something was wrong. The possibility hung in the air. What if the mirror was not an accident? Digging into the Ashfords' asterisk as they searched through historical databases, Rachel pulled up the basic profile of the family. Asterisk. William Ashford. Textile magnate, built his wealth in the 1850s. Supplied fabric to the Union. Army during the Civil War, known for strict discipline and secretive habits. His wife, Catherine, came from a respectable Boston family. Their life outwardly reflected success, refinement, and patriotism. But another detail caught Patricia's eye. Salem, she said. The city had a known black community after the war. Many freed people came north looking for work. If someone like William wanted cheap labor, Michael finished the sentence. He could take advantage of desperate people who had no family nearby, no legal protection, and no power. Asterisk. It wasn't speculation. It was a pattern historians knew too well. The photographer's silence. Asterisk. James Bradford. The forensic expert focused on the photograph itself. Asterisk. Look at the angle, he said, drawing a line from the camera's original position to the mirror in the background. The mirror wasn't centered. It wasn't decorative. It was at the exact spot where the basement door would reflect. Asterisk. So the photographer, Patricia said slowly, turned the family and the camera just enough to catch what was behind them. Asterisk. But why didn't he tell anyone? Asterisk. Rachel flipped through early correspondences and family records and found something else. Asterisk. James Morrison died in 1889, nearly 20 years after the photo was taken. He had never spoken publicly about anything unusual in the Ashford home. Michael put it plainly. He was afraid. William was wealthy, powerful, connected, and reporting abuse of a black woman in 1867, even in the North, often led nowhere. Asterisk. Patricia nodded. But he still tried to leave a record. At Mirror was his message. A lead emerges. Asterisk. By late afternoon. Patricia found something in the archived records of the Salem African Methodist Episcopal Church. Asterisk. A note dated 1868. Asterisk. Inquiry made regarding a young colored woman briefly seen in the Ashford household during the previous year. No further information. Disappeared. The room went silent. Rachel whispered. So she was real. Someone had seen her. Someone noticed when she vanished. Asterisk, and yet no investigation followed. A decision is made asterisk as evening settled over the archives. Rachel stared again at the enhanced reflection on her screen. The faint outline of the woman's shoulders. The tiny glint where light hit a metal restraint. Asterisk, whoever she was. She had been trapped in that house while the children smiled for the camera upstairs. Asterisk. We start in Salem. Rachel said finally. The house, the records, everything. If she lived or died there, we'll find proof. Asterisk Michael nodded. Patricia gathered her notes. James saved every enhanced version of the mirror image. The team left the building with a shared understanding. Asterisk. The chained woman had been hidden plain sight for 152 years. Asterisk, but now, the search for her story and her name had begun. Asterisk. The next morning, the team drove to Salem. The Asheford mansion still stood beautiful on the outside, converted into a small museum that focused mainly on maritime history. The current curator, Robert Hayes, greeted them with polite confusion when they explained their interest. Asterisk. The Ashfords? He repeated. They moved out a century ago. Most of the original furniture is long gone. But you're welcome to look around. Asterisk. The mansion's rooms looked harmless, now bright tour spaces, filled with display cases and educational posters. Nothing suggested that a crime had once taken place here. Asterisk, but Patricia had only one question. Asterisk. Can we see the basement? Asterisk, Robert hesitated. There's nothing down there except storage and old heating systems. Asterisk. Still, she insisted softly. We'd like to look. The descent asterisk. The staircase to the basement was narrow and cold, the air thick with dust. Metal shelves lined the walls, filled with boxes of old museum materials. The deeper they went, the older the architecture felt. Stone walls, low ceilings, uneven floors. Then Patricia stopped. Hold on. This room, it's different. Asterisk. They stepped inside a small chamber near the back of the basement. Unlike the other rooms, this one had wooden plank flooring, plastered walls, asterisk, a windowless. Enclosed layout asterisk, and most telling of all embedded in the stone wall. At waist height were 4 metal rings. Asterisk James crouched beside one. Touching the cold iron gently. Asterisk. These aren't for shelving, he said. These are anchor points. Restraints. Rachel felt a chill run down her spine. This was it. This was where the woman in the mirror had been kept. Asterisk. Her last message asterisk. Rachel scanned the floor. Noting the damage, the rot, the scratches. Then something caught her eye, a cluster of carved marks near one of the wall rings. Asterisk. She knelt down. Brushing away dust, letters, uneven, deep cuts in the wood. Made by someone desperate. Sarah 1866. Rachel's breath broke. She left her name, she whispered. She wanted someone to find her. Asterisk. Patricia covered her mouth, her eyes shining with horror and sorrow. This was her room. These 4 walls were her world. Asterisk Robert, the curator, looked sick. I've been working here 15 years. I had no idea. Asterisk. Patricia answered gently. No one looked because no one believed the wealthy could do something like this. Silence protects power. Confirmation asterisk. Rachel photographed everything. The rings, the carvings, the battered floor. The room itself was proof. The scratches were proof. And together with the mirror reflection, it told a story that could no longer be denied. Asterisk. Her name was Sarah, Rachel said quietly. And she was here? Michael stepped back, his voice heavy. We know her name. Now we find her life. Asterisk. The team returned upstairs. Shaken, but more determined than ever. They had the photograph. They had the basement. Now. They needed the rest of Sarah's story, how she came here, what happened to her, and why she vanished. The search had moved from possibility to certainty. Sarah was real. She left a mark, and she refused to remain silent. Asterisk, now that they had a name. The investigation moved faster, asterisk, back at the Massachusetts Society. Rachel and her team spread out across the archives and online databases, determined to trace who Sarah was before she entered the Ashford house and what happened after she disappeared. A letter. From the past, the breakthrough came from an unexpected place. Patricia had posted a simple inquiry in a genealogy forum dedicated to African American family histories during Reconstruction. 20-4 hours later. A message arrived from Gloria Thompson, a woman in Philadelphia, greater than my great-great-grandmother's sister, who was named Sarah. Family story says she went to work for a wealthy Massachusetts family in 1866 and was never heard from again. Rachel immediately scheduled a call. Gloria, emotional but steady, explained everything she knew. Sarah was born in Virginia in 1848. Her family moved north to Pennsylvania after the Civil War. At age 18. Sarah answered an advertisement for domestic work in Salem. She sent one letter home, saying the house was big, the work manageable, and the employers respectable. After that silence, the family kept writing letters to the address she'd given. But every letter came back unopened. Do you still have her first letter? Patricia asked. There was a pause. Yes, Gloria said. We've kept it for over 150 years. She sent photos that same evening. Sarah's own words, the letter. Dated September 1866. Read, greater than dear Mama and Papa. I've arrived safely in Salem. The house is grand. The work is not too hard. Mr. and Mrs. Ashford seem good people. I will write again soon. Your daughter. Sarah. Rachel compared dates. The portrait was taken June 1867, 9 months after this letter. In 9 months, Sarah went from a hopeful young worker in a grand home, to a chained woman hidden in a basement, to a reflection captured behind a smiling family, something terrible had happened in those months. Trouble in the Ashford house, Michael. Uncovered another piece of the puzzle, William Ashford's textile factory. Suffered a major fire in February 1867, the investigation. Raised suspicions of insurance fraud, witnesses described Ashford as anxious, paranoid, unpredictable, obsessed with keeping people out of his home, financial pressure, Patricia said. Men like him became dangerous when their money or reputation cracked. Then James found something even more telling. An insurance document from March 1867 showed that William had removed valuables before the fire, suggesting he knew it was coming. So in that time, Rachel said slowly, his business was collapsing. He was being investigated, and Sarah was trapped inside his house. A brother's guilt asterisk. The final clue came from James Morrison's old letters. Rachel, read the most important one aloud. It was written in 1867, greater than. I heard a sound from below the house. A human sound. Catherine claimed it was the house settling. And then, greater than, I fear something terrible is occurring. But I have no proof. Another letter written after the photograph was taken. Revealed the truth. Greater than, I positioned the camera to capture it. Mirror. I prayed it would record the truth. I lacked the courage to speak. Aloud. Rachel set the letter down with trembling hands. Morrison had known. He had heard Sarah. He tried to help in the only cowardly way he could, by leaving evidence. For the future, his silence cost Sarah her freedom. Michael said. But his guilt gave us the key to finding her. Sarah was no longer just a shadow in a mirror. She was a daughter, a sister, a young woman who believed she was walking into honest work. Now her story was beginning to return to the surface. And the truth still only half. Uncovered was growing darker. With Sarah's name confirmed and her last letter dated. The team focused on the period between late 1866 and mid-1867. Crucial window when her life in the Ashford household changed from hopeful employment to Imprisonment. The police report no one investigated. Asterisk Michael was searching through digitized local newspapers when he found a short article printed in August 1867 in a Salem paper. Asterisk, it was only a few lines. But it froze everyone in place. Asterisk. Police visited the residence of Mr. William Ashford on Federal Street after neighbors reported sounds of distress late Tuesday evening. Got asterisk. Mr. Ashford denied any disturbance. Officers found nothing. Patricia read it twice, then whispered. Someone heard her. Someone called for help. Asterisk, no one expected the police of 1867 to investigate the disappearance of a young black woman. Asterisk, but the timing was damning. June 1867. The photograph is taken. July 1867. Morrison's letter expresses fear. Asterisk, early August 1867. Neighbors report screams. Asterisk, days later. Sarah disappears completely. The body in the warehouse. Asterisk. The final piece came from the Massachusetts State Archives. Asterisk, a death certificate dated August 25th, 1867. Name, unknown Negro woman, age, approx. 20 cause of death, pneumonia location, abandoned warehouse, Danvers Street. Salem notes. Evidence of prolonged malnourishment, restraint marks on wrists and ankles, severe pneumonia due to cold, damp confinement. Asterisk, no family, no record. Buried in Potter's Field. Rachel read the report out loud. No one spoke for several seconds. Michael finally said the words they were all thinking. He moved her. When police came to the house, he panicked. He took her to the warehouse and left her to die. Asterisk, Sarah had died alone. Unnamed, in the dark. Asterisk, not because of illness. Alone, but because someone decided her life had no meaning. The house sold in a hurry. Asterisk, another. Record confirmed the Ashfords sold their mansion only weeks after her death and moved to Boston. Asterisk, quick sales like that were rare for wealthy families. Asterisk, Patricia closed the file and said quietly, he wasn't clearing out property, he was erasing a crime. The family silence. Asterisk, there were no missing person. Inquiries filed. No charges. No investigation. Asterisk, not because no one cared, but because no one with power cared. Asterisk, black women in 1867 could vanish without consequence. Even in the North. Asterisk, Rachel looked at the photo again. The smiling little girl. The strict father. The perfectly arranged image of respectability, and felt sick. Asterisk behind that image. A teenager was chained, starving and dying. Asterisk, it's almost unbearable, she whispered. To know she was so close to rescue, and no one reached her. Patricia placed a hand on her shoulder. We can't change what happened. Asterisk, but we can make sure she's no longer invisible. Sarah had been erased in 1867. Asterisk, but in 2019. Her story was returning with names, dates, places, and evidence no one could ignore. And now the team had one final mission: show the world exactly what happened to her. With every new detail uncovered, the team's purpose became clearer. Sarah's story had to be told publicly. The evidence was overwhelming. Now asterisk, the reflection. The basement room, the carved name, the letters, the police report, asterisk, the death certificate. Asterisk, the next step was to gather it all into a single, undeniable narrative. Preparing the truth. Asterisk, for 6 weeks. Rachel and her team worked nonstop. Asterisk, they organized high-resolution scans of the original photograph. The enhanced image showing Sarah's chained reflection, photographs of the basement room and the iron rings. Close-ups of Sarah 1866, carved into the floor. Asterisk, copies of James Morrison's letters, Gloria Thompson's family records, the police report, the warehouse death certificate, everything was placed into a chronological timeline. Asterisk, this isn't just academic, Patricia said. This is a human story, a crime, a life stolen. Asterisk, Michael agreed. We're speaking for someone who had no voice. The press conference. Asterisk, the Massachusetts Historical Society agreed to host a public announcement and an exhibition. Asterisk, on the morning of the press conference, the room overflowed. journalists. Historians, students, activists, community elders, all waiting. Rachel stepped to the podium. The 1867 photograph enlarged behind her. She began calmly. Greater than for 152 years. This image appeared to be an ordinary family portrait. But modern technology has revealed something hidden. Something Sarah never intended to remain buried. The screen changed to the enhanced mirror. Gasps filled the room. Cameras clicked. Reporters shouted questions. People leaned forward in disbelief. Rachel continued, greater than this is Sarah. She was illegally enslaved in a Massachusetts home after slavery was abolished. She died a week after neighbors heard her cries. Patricia spoke next, explaining the history of illegal northern enslavement. Michael followed, describing the moral failure of James Morrison, silent in life, but honest in his photograph. James explained the imaging process that confirmed the reflection was not an artifact. No one in the room left untouched. The public reacts within days, the story spread across the country. News stations covered it. Social media exploded. People debated the hidden legacy of northern slavery. Teachers requested materials for classrooms. Other museums began examining their archives for similar secrets. And messages poured in from Black families across America. Greater than my ancestor disappeared in 1870. Maybe we should investigate. Greater than your work gives us hope that lost stories can be found. Sarah's family speaks Gloria Thompson traveled to Boston for the exhibition opening. She stood in front of the photograph, looking at her ancestor's faint reflection. She's there, Gloria whispered. After all these years. She's finally seen. Rachel stood beside her in silence. No speech could match the weight of that moment. Sarah had been nameless in 1867. Now the world knew her name, and her story was no longer hidden in a mirror. Sarah had been gone for more than a century. But the impact of her story was only beginning. The exhibition remained open for months. People traveled from across the country to see the photograph, the carved name, and the documents proving what had happened inside the Asheford home. For many visitors, Sarah's story broke some open questions about their own ancestors, about hidden histories, about the truth behind respectable northern families. But the ripple effect didn't stop there. A city confronts. It's past in early 2021. The city of Salem, Massachusetts, issued an unprecedented public apology. It acknowledged that local authorities ignored the 1867 distress call that Sarah died without justice that a crime had been committed within Salem's borders permanent memorial was commissioned near the site of the old Ashford mansion. It would bear Sarah's name, something she was denied in life and in death. The Ashford descendants respond at first. The surviving Ashford relatives stayed silent, hoping the news cycle would fade. But it didn't. Finally, Thomas Ashford, a distant descendant, reached out to Rachel. His email read, greater than I cannot undo what my ancestors did. But I refuse to pretend it didn't happen. He worked with Gloria Thompson's family to establish scholarship fund for descendants of enslaved people, educational support for students studying history, law, or journalism, a public acknowledgement of the crime committed in 1867. He later attended the exhibition himself, standing quietly before the same photograph his ancestors posed for, now infamous for its hidden truth. A nation takes notice. Academics across the country began re-examining Northern archives. 14 similar cases surfaced within a year, instances where freed or newly employed Black women in the North had vanished without explanation. Sarah's case became the first fully documented example of illegal Reconstruction-era enslavement in a wealthy Northern household. Rachel published her findings widely. Patricia wrote an academic paper that became required reading in several universities. Michael's book, centered on Sarah's life, became a bestseller. Their work ensured one thing: Sarah would never again be invisible. The old photograph reveals even more asterisk in 2022. A researcher reviewing the high-resolution scan noticed faint lettering on the wall behind the Asheford family. After enhancement, the words became clear. Asterisk, truth in every frame. Asterisk, it was part of photographer James Morrison's business motto. Patricia stared at it and whispered, he wasn't just exposing the family, he was exposing himself. Asterisk his guilt, his failure, his attempt to leave a record. Morrison had been too afraid to save Sarah, but he had not been too afraid to leave a trace. Asterisk a trace someone someday might find. Sarah's real face, asterisk. The most emotional moment came 3 years after the story broke. Asterisk A. Woman in Virginia sent Rachel a small daguerreotype. Asterisk. Inside the tiny case was a picture of a teenage girl serious. Dutiful. Determined. The note read, greater than, this is Sarah. My grandmother was her sister. Our family kept this photograph safe for generations. Asterisk. Now it belongs in your exhibit, beside the mirror image, so people know she was real. Asterisk, when Rachel placed Sarah's daguerreotype next to the 1867 family portrait, visitors wept. In one image, Sarah was a hopeful young woman. In the other, she was a faint reflection, chained and erased. Now the world saw both. Asterisk A. Name restored asterisk on a cold March day in 2020. Just before pandemic shutdowns, a proper headstone was placed at her burial site. It read, Sarah 1848 to 1867 daughter, sister, free woman, asterisk, unlawfully enslaved and silenced in Salem, Massachusetts. Asterisk, her name endures. Her story is remembered. Asterisk, dozens of people stood in silence around her grave. Historians, community members, descendants, and strangers moved by her story. Gloria placed her hand on the headstone and whispered, she's not lost anymore. Sarah had been hidden in a mirror. She had carved her name into a floor. She had waited 152 years to be found. Asterisk. Now, at last, the world was listening. Asterisk 5 years after the discovery, Sarah's story had become more than a historical case. Asterisk, it had become a symbol of truth, of justice delayed, and of the voices that history tried to erase. Asterisk at a national symposium on hidden histories, the final. Speaker of the evening was Gloria Thompson, Sarah's descendant. She stepped up to the podium while Sarah's two images, her daguerreotype and the mirror, reflection were projected on the screen behind her. The young girl full of hope, the faint, chained figure behind a wealthy family. Asterisk, two versions of the same life. Asterisk, one free, one stolen. Gloria's words, asterisk, glorious, spoke slowly. Her voice steady, but heavy with generations of pain, greater than my ancestor was murdered. She was kidnapped, enslaved, silenced. Asterisk. For 152 years, no one knew what happened to her. Asterisk, she paused, glancing back at the images. But now we know, and knowing matters. Asterisk, because it means she wasn't just a shadow in someone else's story. Asterisk, she described Sarah as the family had remembered her. A girl who loved to sing, a fast learner who dreamed of becoming a teacher. Asterisk A. Sister who promised to write letters but never got the chance. Asterisk A. Daughter whose disappearance broke her family forever. Asterisk. Gloria looked out at the audience and said, asterisk greater than. She carved her name into a floor so someone would find her. And we did. We found her. A legacy of truth. Asterisk. Sarah's story sparked a nationwide re-examination of Northern history. Asterisk. Schools added new curriculum. Museums reviewed forgotten archives. Families asked new questions about their ancestors, both victims and enslavers. Asterisk Rachel, Patricia, Michael, and James continued their work, teaching young researchers to use forensic imaging, family records, church logs forgotten, archives to uncover stories that had been buried, ignored, or deliberately erased. Sarah's case became the foundation for 14 other confirmed cases of illegal enslavement in the North. Her name opened doors for others who had been silenced. Asterisk, a new memorial. Asterisk, the city of Salem completed a permanent Memorial asterisk, a quiet stone courtyard near the site of the old Ashford mansion. Asterisk. At its center stood a single mirrored panel. Asterisk visitors. Who walked past saw their own reflection fade into Sarah's silhouette asterisk, a reminder that history is not distant, that injustice echoes, and that silence allows cruelty to thrive. Engraved beneath it, Sarah 1848 to 1867, she was here. Rachel's reflection. Rachel often visited the memorial when she needed grounding. She thought of the moment she first saw the faint outline in the mirror. The moment she realized that a woman had been calling out across time. Asterisk, she understood now that Sarah didn't need the world to rescue her in 1867. She needed the world to remember her in 2019. And it did. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk.